Hey everyone, welcome to DevRunner. My name is Paul, and this is episode 7 of my subscriber spotlight series. My guest today is the amazing Shawanna White. She's the fastest US-born black marathoner with a PR of 2 hours, 45 minutes, and 19 seconds. Beyond that, she's also an amazing social media personality. She's known as PeachRunner 26.2 on Instagram, and she's an absolute ray of sunshine in everything she does. It was a real pleasure to talk with her, so please stay tuned and join me for this awesome conversation with an awesome person. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to DevRunner. My name is Paul, and this is episode 7 of Subscriber Spotlight, where I have conversations with amazing runners to help to motivate and inspire you. My guest today is Shawanna White, also known as PeachRunner 26.2 on Instagram. She's just an awesome, upbeat, amazing runner. She's a social media personality, but one of her other main claims to fame is her status as the fastest US-born black marathoner with a PR of 2 hours, 45 minutes, and 19 seconds. Just amazing. She hails from Columbia, South Carolina, which is, believe it or not, just down the highway from me. So Shawanna, I hope we get the opportunity after COVID and all this is over, that maybe we can get together and go for a run together. I would absolutely love that.
I would love that too.
That's awesome. But without any further ado, everyone, I just want to say, hey, Shawanna, thank you so much for being here. I'm just so absolutely excited to have this conversation with you.
Hey, Paul, and I'm so excited to be here. So thank you again for inviting me to your channel.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Just to dive right in, I was hoping that maybe you could give a short bio of yourself, who you are, where you're from, whatever you find relevant. I'm just happy to learn more.
Well, you already said my name. My name is Shawanna White. I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. I currently, like you said, reside in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm a PE teacher. I'm a runner. I'm a positive person. And I'm also a runner. So even if I'm not running, I love to watch running, read about running, consume all things running.
That's awesome. I'm really curious, Shawanna, what is your athletic background? Go back as far as you want to.
Well, as a child, I enjoyed going outside to play. I was very active. Like I said, I love to go outside and play. And in school, I was pretty good in PE. And also when we had field day, I was pretty successful at that. And when I was in middle school, my PE teacher invited me to run track. But at the time, my grandmother, she said no. And so I was in high school, and then my high school coach, he saw me in the hallway and he asked me to join the team. And I told him that he was going to have to ask my grandmother, because the last time I asked her, she said no. This time around, instead of me asking my grandmother, I told him that he would have to ask her. And so he asked her and she said yes. And the rest is history. I started running track, and that's the only sport that I played in high school. Sometimes I used to fill in for the softball team if they needed any other girls, but I didn't have experience in that. But yeah, so I ran high school track, and then later on, I went to West Georgia on a cross-country scholarship. And then after college, I took a brief break from running because I was kind of burned out. And then once I started working as a PE teacher, I worked at a charter school in Georgia. And in charter schools, there were no sports opportunities. So I had to look out to find something for my kids to participate in. So I found Loop Sports. And in that program, they had basketball, flag football, and then they just had an exhibition meet for track. So it was just a one-time thing. So I put out a flyer asking if the kids wanted to run track. And so I had a high interest, and then I trained them for just that track meet. And then after the track meet, the kids, they were so excited and they wanted to keep running. And so one of my parents told me that I could enter them in parks and recreation. So I did that. And once I started coaching, just watching the kids work so hard, it actually motivated and inspired me to lace up again. So
That's awesome.
I have to owe my youth running team that I was coaching in Georgia for the reason that I'm running today, because I was done with running for a minute.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, I mean, it's so great that I love the fact that not only are you amazingly talented as a runner, but the fact that you're so open about giving back and trying to encourage others. You know, that's the angle of your presence on Instagram that attracted to me initially. You know, I mean, because there are a lot of people with who can run fast, but it's that combination of you're just a natural coach. I mean, you're just, you know, if anybody sees a single one of your posts, they're immediately hooked. And it's like, it makes you want to get out the door, lace up and get out the door and go run. So, you know, and you've done that for me on, you don't know it, but you've done that for me on days when I really did not feel like getting out there. And I was just sitting there on my phone and I saw one of your posts and I was like, okay, put down the phone. I got to get out the door.
Yeah, go get it, get those miles in.
Exactly. So, once you started back and you decided, okay, I'm going to start running again. If you don't mind, kind of walking us through the high points of your running career.
So once I started back, Paula, I was out of shape. I remember my first 5K. I ran 23 minutes, and it was so hard, and I was shocked. I mean, I was just surprised, and then I started looking out for different clubs that I could join, and so I joined the Soft the Cap Striders. It's a predominantly Black running club, and so within that club there was two young men at the time. They was telling me about the Atlanta Track Club and how they thought that if I continue to work hard and train hard, that I can be a part of that team. And they called them the ladies in red, and I was like, okay, cool, I want to join the ladies in red. So I basically just started training with them. They basically took me under their wing, and then eventually I joined the Atlanta Track Club team, and where I met some of my best friends. And then after that, within the Atlanta Track Club, we left the Atlanta Track Club and formed our own team that was basically geared towards the marathon, because we love running marathons. And at the time, before Atlanta Track Club became an elite team, most of the girls that were on the team at the time were focusing on the 5K. So once I did that, I eventually ran 2:52 in the marathon. And then at the time, our coach of our group, he told me he thought that I could qualify for the Olympic trials. And, you know, at the time, I had no clue what the Olympic trial, or like, I didn't know about the times. I had no idea. And I was like, you really think so? And so when he planted that seed in me, I was just like, okay, you know what? I'm going to go for it. And, you know, I'm still going for it, because as you mentioned, my PR is 2:45:19, so I just missed it by 19 seconds this go around. So I'm hoping in 2024 that I can achieve that goal. But the view back to that, in that process, after I ran the 2:52, which was back in 2013, because at that time I was going to try to go for 2016. But during that period, I actually had to have hip surgery.
Wow.
My hips aren't shaped. The bone socket, yeah, it's a joint bone socket, something like that. It's not shaped properly, so it was rubbing against the labrum and it was torn. So they had to go in there and shave it and clean the labrum out. And then they found some other stuff that they had to fix as well. So that pushed the timeline back. So from 2014 to 2016, I was just basically just learning how to walk and run.
Wow.
It was just like starting all over with running, except this time I was in a little bit better shape because my first 5K then was just only 21 minutes. So, you know, so it was pretty awesome. And I really had fun along the way, just trying to get back to where I was. And, you know, I just kept showing up, and eventually I ran my fastest marathon, and I was pretty happy with that. But I think one of my greatest accomplishments or achievements was running the most sub 3 hours marathon for African American female, which is 16 now. And it was like an amazing accomplishment because the woman who held the record was Marilyn Bevins, and she was the first African American woman to ever break 3 hours. So
Yeah, yeah.
record was so special to me. So
Just amazing, just amazing. Now, I got to ask you, I mean, when you go through hip surgery and things like that, I mean, that's major. I mean, what kept you motivated? What kept you, like, where you knew you were just going to keep coming back to running like that? Was that always just like something you couldn't imagine life without running, or were there times where you just had to kind of refocus and bring yourself back?
well, I have to say that my surgeon, he pretty much guaranteed me that I was going to be able to run marathons again. So that's all I needed. The confidence of my surgeon telling me that I was going to be able to run marathons again was the key, because Paul, I did go to one surgeon and he told me there was a chance that I wasn't going to run marathons. And I didn't want to hear that. I did not like that news. And so I went out for a second opinion. And when he told me that, that I was going to be able to, I went with him and I trust him. And he was right, because after that, I don't know how many marathons I ran after the surgery. Probably like 10 or 15, maybe 10 or 15 marathons after my surgery, because I ran a total of 24. And during that time before COVID, I was running about 4 to 5 marathons each year. So yeah, so he actually gave me the confidence. And so I mean, I just trust him and I believe. And during that time during my surgery, after my surgery, I just followed all the instructions. I did all the PT, I did all the exercises, and I listened to my coach. I mean, we took a slow approach back to running. And in the meantime, when I wasn't able to run, I would volunteer. Well, being up at the time, no, I wasn't a track club member, but I used to volunteer. I volunteered extra because when I was racing, it's kind of hard to volunteer. But due to the fact that I wasn't racing, I started volunteering. I started just going to races, cheering on my friends, because, I never been able to cheer them on because I'm always in the race with them. So
Yeah.
So that was really fun. I mean, and during that time, one of my favorite volunteer moment was working the P Street Road Race. And I was actually at the elite tent. So I was able to see all the elite runners and take pictures.
That's awesome.
It was an amazing experience. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I would imagine that would be motivation in its own right. But
Yeah.
I'm just, if it's cool with you, Shawanna, I'm going to ask a question that I didn't provide beforehand, just because I'm so curious. If you can talk about, on any level you want to, in any level of detail that you want to, what went into that 2:45:19 training wise? I mean, like, how long a training cycle? What was involved cross training wise? Whatever you want to share. I mean, there are a lot of people who follow my channel who are pushing really hard to get faster, and I put myself amongst them. So, I mean, any kind of anything you can share would be just hugely appreciated.
Okay. Well, my way of training is not very common. It's kind of uncommon. So, if anybody follow me online on social media, they know that I love to race a lot. And so my coach at the time, he knew that I love the race. So we used the races as workouts primarily. Like all the races that I ran, I wasn't trying to, run a PR. So with that being said, like, say for example, half marathon, I would sometimes try to run the half marathon at marathon goal pace. So I did things like that. And also for cross training, I would lift weights. I would lift weights at least three times a week, 2 to 3 times a week. I would try to always, I mean, I'm really bad at this, but I always try to do some type of yoga throughout the week, at least twice. And then being a PE teacher with stretching, I pretty much stretch almost all day long, because when I do the stretches with my classes, most of the time I do it with them. So that's how I get extra flexibility. And at the time doing work, and let's see, I mean, basically just being consistent. Like basically with my training, we would have, on some days we would have a tempo run, or we'll have mile repeats. I mean, it's nothing really special. It's just putting in the work. Like,
Gotcha.
right.
Gotcha.
And being like a master's runner, well, at the time I wasn't a master's, but we still, since, I was getting of age, we always just believed doing two workouts per week. And then within the long run with my old coach, we never had like structured workouts. Like the long runs was basically just based on how you felt. So if I felt like running under 7-minute pace that day, then I'll do that for a few miles. Or if I wanted to run the whole long run under 7 minutes, that was fine. Like the long runs were basically just time on feet. And like
Okay.
from run, I would get up to 26 miles.
Wow, really? Wow, you went the whole distance in practice runs. Wow.
Yes.
That's impressive. And I got to ask you, that just begs the question, like what kind of weekly mileage were you looking at? Like where did you peak when you were preparing for that race?
For the 245, my highest week was 90.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Wow. You are so talented. Wow. I thought you were going to say like 120, 130 or something like that.
No, I have ran 100 miles only one time, but yeah, just 80 to 90 is like my sweet spot.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Oh, yeah. I could question you on this stuff forever, but just to respect your time, I'm just gonna move on to the next question here. Shawanna, I'm just gonna do a little reading here.
Okay.
Yeah, basically, so yeah, in your video posts on Instagram, there is so much happiness. There's so much exuberance coming from you and from the people that you have guests, whether you're dancing or just cheering people on the side of a road as they run by in a race. Where does all that happiness come from? Have you just always been just a naturally super happy person?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I think I kind of primarily get it from my grandmother who raised me, because when I was growing up, she would always look after all the kids on the block. Like she would welcome all of them into our house and be so happy to help them. So I think I kind of naturally got that from her, just being happy and trying to help others. So yeah, I think it's just, get it from my grandmother.
Gotcha. That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, you're just a ray of sunshine out there. I'm just so happy that I discovered your channel, and I'll say it again. I'm just honored to have the opportunity to speak with you today. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, and more on that question, like my friends that I know before Instagram, like they will always tell you what you see on Shawanna Instagram is what you're gonna get in real life. Like there's no, because some people on Instagram, they're one way, and then when you meet them in real life, you're like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
Me, what you see on there is what you're gonna see in real life. So
awesome.
if so yeah.
You're the real deal, no doubt about it. That's so cool. So this is a kind of a catch-all question I wanted to throw into the interview.
Okay.
Is there anything that your followers, anything you'd like to share that your followers might be surprised by that they don't already know about you?
That is that's really honestly a good question. And I'm trying to think, like, I love cheerleader movies, and I always wanted to be a cheerleader when I was younger.
Okay.
And also I love Pitch Perfect movies.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I love just singing around in my house, even though I can't sing, but I love doing that. So
that's so cool. Yeah, our family went through that whole phase of when those movies were new. Yeah, we sat through them all.
bring it on. Like I have all of them.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that's just suits your personality so perfectly. That's so cool. So, okay, now I'm gonna more just kind of general questions. What motivates you to run now, and what are your future running plans?
What motivates me now to run is just to see how good I can be, to see what are my limits. Like I'm curious. So that's what motivates me each day to get out the door. And also just because I can run, like that's another reason I'm happy to get out the door, because not everybody have the opportunity to run. So just waking up and not being injured or sick where I can't run, that makes me happy and excited to get out the door every day. But the second part of the question was about what are my goals coming up. Well, as I stated earlier, like, well, long-term goal is to try to qualify for the 2024 Olympic trials, but short-term goals, I do want to run a half marathon PR, even though earlier in this year, I trained for a race, and unfortunately I DNF'd because my foot, something was going on with my foot at the time, and I wasn't sure if it was an injury, so I didn't want to risk the chance. So I just stopped. Like in the past, normally I would just keep running through things, but as I got older, I learned that that's not the smart way to go about things. You know, so I'm good with stopping now. So that's one of my goals, a half marathon PR. And I'm hoping that the US championship for the Masters Mile race is going to take place in June, but it's kind of unsure with COVID. So if that's going to take place, I would love to run a PR in the mile. Like, you know, my current PR is 5:10, so I really want to break 5 minutes in a mile. So I'm hoping that I get that chance in June. And so, and then I'm also running Chicago in the fall. If that takes place, I would love to PR there. So
That's amazing. Yeah, my plans were to go to Chicago myself this fall. I've never been before, but yeah, I got kind of scared. I didn't want to sink the money and have it be canceled. So I held off, but I may try to get there through charity fundraising at this point.
Nice. Because I'm going to tell you a fun thing about me with Chicago. Like in December, I ran the Jacksonville half marathon, and I ran 119 and some change. I can't remember the exact seconds, but I was looking on the Chicago Marathon website, and they have this program called the ADP, and it stands for the American Development Program. And so they have these two time standards, one where it guarantees you an entry and then you pay to get in the race. And then they have another tier where if you run this certain time, then you can get a free entry. So based on my half time, I was able to gain a free entry to Chicago. So
that's awesome.
Excited about that. So I'm like, there are perks of becoming a Masters runner.
That is so cool. That is so cool. I know I'm going to be cheering you on, watching all that happen. Hopefully I can even be there somewhere and we can meet each other. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, because you're pretty fast too.
Yeah, I try. Cool. So I'm going to ask you a catch-all kind of question. It can run deep. It can be silly. It's all up to you.
Okay.
How has running changed your life for the better?
That's a great question. Well, if I go back to high school years, running gave me confidence, and it pretty much shaped the person I am today, because running like took me out of my shell. Like in high school, I used to be very shy and quiet amongst people that I didn't know. But once I started running, I was meeting other people, and now anybody that I see, I'm able to communicate with them. I'm not shy. Like I don't have to be your friend first to open up. So I think running made me more confident in talking with people. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I think it's done the same thing for me. It's just, you know, I think the running community is, generally speaking, a very positive place. And I think it's a great place for people like, it sounds like you are naturally introverted, and I definitely am. But it seems like a safe space where the vast overwhelming majority of people are very, very positive. So it's a great place to kind of overcome your own personal boundaries.
Yes, I totally agree.
I would like you, Shawanna, to share your favorite piece of advice for runners or other people with who are building a social media presence as well.
People who are building a social running. Let's go.
Primarily, I'm worried about your favorite piece of advice for runners.
Okay, because I think with running, the social media and running, I think they go hand in hand. They both take time. Like with social media, you know, in order to build a presence, you just have to be consistent. And that's the same thing with running. In order to improve, you just have to be consistent and just keep showing up, putting in the miles. But my favorite thing to tell runners is, you know, take your easy days easy, or sexy pace, as I like to call it. That means to go really slow, typically 2 to 3 minutes, based off your marathon time or your 5K time, whichever one you prefer, and go hard on your hard days. Because what I see online, I'm seeing a lot of people that I personally feel that they are going too fast for the easy days. Like, I feel like if you just slow the pace down, it'll let you run faster on your hard days, which will produce the results that you're looking for.
Just amazing advice. Yeah. And it's funny because at my advanced years, I've only just started really paying attention to that advice in the last year, you know, just kind of just taking it way down, and it makes those workouts so much easier.
Yeah.
At this point, I just want to ask you about your social media presences. Where can people find you online?
They can find me. I'm mostly active on Instagram at peachrunner26.2.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. And everyone out there, I recommend as soon as you're done watching this video, head on over to Instagram and start following Shawanna. If you need a ray of sunshine in your life, if you need motivation to get out the door for your next run, she provides it all. She's amazing. So Shawanna, with that, I want to thank you so much for being here. I was really looking forward to this conversation, and it's everything that I hoped it would be. Thank you.
And thank you, Paul. So happy to be here again.
That was awesome. See you soon.
Bye.